Sri Akkalkot Maharaj Charitra, Chapter 3. Closest than thy jugular vein. The words of Sri Swami Samarth could never go in vain. The appearance of Sri Swami Samarth was striking, and fortunately, we have vivid descriptions of the same left for us by his close devotees. One of them writes, Sri Swami Samarth was always deeply immersed in Brahmananda, bliss of realization. His appearance was strange. Though he was an Avadhuta, far advanced in years, his body, instead of being wrinkled, remained as it was in his youth. He never knew fear or doubt. Though he was all knowing, he never appeared to be such. His actions were like those of a child. However, his words were sweet and full of love. As he was ever immersed in Ananda, he seemed to be in a frenzy and never cared for anyone. This made it difficult for common folk to recognize his greatness. He was very tall and his hands long, extending up to the knees. His belly big, shoulders broad, his look piercing. He was handsome, rosy colored in complexion, his ears big, their lobes so thin that they shook with the slightest movement of the body. His visage was big, his forehead broad, his eyebrows tenderly grey. Though his body was tender as a rose, it looked very ancient and powerful. Another devotee adds, his feet were long. He wore the caste mark tilakam on his forehead. He always wore kaupina, codpiece or underwear. He had a fine set of teeth and a big and deep navel. He wore a rosary of tulsi, rudraksha and crystal, spatika. He had earrings inset with precious gems. His actions were strange. He was always found to be muttering something to himself and smiling. Sometimes he used to address stones and trees with great affection, inquiring of them, what do you want from me? Sometimes Vedic hymns, Sanskrit verses, devotional songs intended for group singing, etc., used to emanate from his tongue. He spoke very little, but what little he said was directed unerringly at the hidden feelings of his devotees. Sometimes his words were cryptic and impossible to understand. He used to speak mostly in Marathi and Urdu, not Hindi, because his utterances in that language were pure Urdu pronounced in the Nizam state. Letter dated 28 to 74. He always used to repeat every statement 3 times. Often, his talks was full of foul abuse. He never distinguished between Hindus and Muslims. Often, he used to resort to the dargahs of Sheikh Nuruddin and Khaja Pir and Hindu temples. The Swami never had any fixed daily routine to follow. He did not even take a bath regularly, nor did he change his dress at regular intervals. He used to ask his devotees to give him a bath whenever he had a whim. Sometimes he used to get his body besmeared with sandal paste and got arati done to him. Sometimes he did not take a bath for several weeks on end. He used to sit wherever his fancy led, from the cremation ground to the royal palace. Though he did not adhere to ritual purity and such other customs, he used to ask many of his devotees to observe them scrupulously. No one could walk as fast and as long as he did. Sometimes he used to go on talking for long periods. So too, if he started smoking hakka, he used to consume it for a long time, quite absorbed in it. He used to mingle with the children and play with them freely. Once, in a strange fit of passion, the Swami struck the dargah, the tomb of a Muslim saint, and a part of it broke. All the Muslims in the village were infuriated at it, and they set out together to chastise him. The Swami was unmoved on hearing the news, but he calmly beckoned to a devotee and asked him to hold a black dog which was lying there, pressed hard against the ground. When he acted according to Swami's order, many difficulties and ordeals cropped up in the families of the Muslims. After a little while, an old Muslim gentleman assembled all the others and told them that the Swami was a great Aliya, Siddha Purush, and that it is not good for them to get into trouble with him. Sri Swami Samarth was particularly fond of dogs and cows among animals, saffron colored ones among flowers, laddu among sweets, and onion curries among dishes. However, he never ate anything by himself. He had to be fed by someone as though he was a child. Sometimes he had to be cajoled and persuaded to eat. When he slept, he covered himself from top to toe and would go on muttering something to himself throughout his sleep. He slept soundly, snoring occasionally, though he slept only for a short while. However, the one observance that he constantly adhered to was the sipping of holy water thrice every morning from his own palm, Achamana. Nearly 3,000 people used to visit the Swami every day, and there were constant bhajans and kirtans, devotional singing and chanting. Though the devotees offered him the daintiest dishes and delicacies, he never even tasted them except on a very rare occasions. Once, when a rich variety of delicacies were placed before him by his devotees, one of the visitors wondered at the sight of it and thought that a true saint should not hanker after tasty things as the Swami seemed to be hankered. But the visitor did not have the boldness to speak out his doubt. But all the same, it could not be hidden from the all knowing Swami Samarth. At once, the Swami threw all the dishes aside and ordered for 2 measures of green chilies to be brought, ate them all, and sat contented. That was his reply to the unuttered doubt of the visitor. Sometimes the Swami used to play with the various dishes offered to him like a child, or sometimes he used to store nuts, sweets, pebbles, and marbles behind the idols in the temples. Among the visitors, there were some foreigners also. A Westerner who was a district engineer at Sholapur once visited the Swami to solicit his grace for the fulfillment of a wish. But on seeing the Swami and his childish behavior, he thought that he was a madman. The Swami then looked at him and said, "You want to be blessed with a child. You will have one within a year." The visitor was thrilled by his insight and bowed to him in reverence, and within a year he was blessed with a son. Similarly, there was a man from Israel who was a doctor, an eye specialist in Jamshedji Jiji Bhai Hospital. During the Christmas vacation, he started on a tour and reached Akkalkot. There he heard of the Swami and went to see him. On seeing him, the Swami immediately said, "You have treated thousands of eye patients." The doctor was charmed by Swami's omniscience. After his retirement, the Jew had spent the rest of his life at Akkalkot. Great scholars and pundits used to visit the Swami with a desire to test his knowledge. The Swami used to talk to the various sections of his audience on their level of understanding. In 1870, one Brahmachari Baba came from Bombay along with his disciples. After paying his respects to the Swami, he retired to his lodgings and started cooking his meal. He sent Lakshman, one of his disciples, to the shop to buy a little candy. The Swami, who was sitting in the Cholappa's mud, started grumbling and complaining, "See, that rogue Lakhu is eating candy without giving me." A devotee by name Manjrekar, who was sitting by the Swami's side, jumped at the opportunity to test the correctness of the Swami's words. So he at once ran to the bazaar, and there he found Lakhu munching a piece of candy on his way home. Manjrekar told him of what the Swami said of him. Lakhu was amazed at it and at once ran to Swami and bowed to him in reverence. Henceforth, he took a vow that he would not eat anything without offering it first to God and also promised to control his tongue. It was a lesson in self control which, when the Brahmachari Baba taught him, seemed to be a mere platitude. He was very much impressed by the omniscience of the Swami. A rich Brahmin from Bombay had no issue, so he went along with his wife to Gangapur and vowed to Lord Dattatreya that if he was blessed with a child, he would feed 1,000 Brahmins in that holy place. His wish was granted in due course and he had a son. But unfortunately for him, he suffered a heavy loss in his business and he became a pauper. The Brahmin died heartbroken, but his wife faced life with fortitude. Once she expressed to a lady of her next door her regrets for her inability to fulfill the vow made to Lord Dattatreya. The lady advised her to go to Gangapur and put forth her excuse before Lord Dattatreya and pray to him to show her a way out. Immediately she proceeded to Gangapur and sought the refuge of the holy Padukas of Sri Nrisimha Saraswati. The same night, Lord Dattatreya appeared to her in a dream and said, "Go to Akkalkot and feed Swami Samarth there. That is equal to feeding 1,000 Brahmins." In great joy, she proceeded to Akkalkot and bowed to the Swami who was playing on the roadside like a child. He was pleased with her devotion and so called her near him and asked her to feed him. She considered himself blessed for that and happily she fed him. After the meal, Swami looked at her lovingly and said, "Do not be worried. The 1,000 Brahmins are fed." The lady shed tears of joy and gratitude for his kindness, wondered at his omniscience, and adored him for his identity with Lord Dattatreya. She was also impressed by the infallibility of the divine guidance she had at Gangapur. Babaji Sadoba was a superintendent in a post office. He used to visit Swami every weekend. On a particular Sunday, when he sought leave to return to his office, Sri Swami Samarth said, "Stay, where could you go?" But Sadoba had to attend the office the next morning, and so his mind was restless. He sought the Swami's permission twice more. At last, the Swami said to him in Hindi, "Nadi kinare par." The river has crossed the bank. None could understand the significance of his words. After a little while, when the Swami was engaged in talking to his visitors, Sadoba managed to slip away and reached Kadabgaon railway station. There he was told that River Krishna was in spate, that it had submerged the nearby bridge, and that no train was likely to arrive till the next morning. He had to sit in the beating cold of the night till the next morning. The words of Sri Swami Samarth could never go in vain. Jai Guru Datta.